Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. We got lots of rain. Today, we're going to be talking about Noctis. We're going to be talking about how his Armiger ability works. We're going to be talking about stats, whether or not he's going to be a good unit to pull, and how he's going to be better on the global side than he was on the JP side. Let's go ahead and dig in. I usually start off these videos talking about a character's stats, talking about where they rank in terms of overall power level. Noctis, however, is a very unique unit in that he has a unique ability exclusive to him in the game. So we're going to talk about that ability first so that you can kind of keep this in mind as we are going through the rest of the review. His really unique ability is called the Power of the True King. And you probably saw this showcased in the kind of starting video or the reveal video. You might have seen Umbra talk about this as well. It's an ability that gives defense plus 20 for 3 turns to self, attack plus 40%, and magic plus 40% for 3 turns to self. But what's more important is it activates Noctis's Armiger for 3 turns. And what this does is when Noctis uses a skill on the opponent, it triggers an attack called Weapon Call. And this is a 121% true neutral attack. So this is going to have no elemental association and no type association. So this is a truly typeless ability, which is, as far as I'm aware, this is the first ability of this type in the game. It's a single hit attack. It'll do 121% modifier damage after your skill goes off. This is really important because this is essentially a separate ability that's not going to chain. It's not going to really, it's just kind of be like a separate small attack. And being based off your magic stat, and being that Noctis doesn't have the highest magic stat in the game, it's going to deal not a ton of damage, but it's going to deal, you know, a couple hundred damage. And this is important because it does hit after re-raise or after guts procs. So if you have an opponent that, you know, has re-raise on and you hit them with your skill, they die, they re-raise, this weapon call ability will then proc on them, kind of potentially killing the opponent. Where this becomes a issue is if the re-raise HP percentage is more than what Noctis's weapon call ability can deal in damage. Being that it is a single hit attack, being that there's no real spirit penetration to kind of aid Noctis, you're going to find a situation where if you are going up against Noctis, spirit to kind of defend against this type of an attack or single hit resistance is going to be very powerful if you are running a re-raise comp against him. So I just want us all to keep this in mind and kind of understand how this unique effect works going forward, because this is really going to shape how you're going to use Noctis, how you're going to try and counter Noctis, because if you have units re-raising and this weapon call is not going to kill them, that's a problem. However, if you maybe have a Noctis and you want to be able to counter these re-raises, that's going to be less of a problem. So something to think about as you are considering going into the field with Noctis and kind of learning to use and manipulate his unique ability. With the complication of the Armiger out of the way, let's talk about everything else regarding Noctis. And it's not an understatement to say that he's probably the most complex unit that has come out in War of the Visions to date. His main job is Prince of Luci. He has access to Spellblade and Ninja Sub, although you're most likely not going to be using either of those. He comes in with 10% Confusion resistance, 50% Berserk resistance, which will be really good against King Mons. And he does have 50% Immobilize resistance as well, which, you know, PvE-wise is going to be pretty useful. His stats are designed to be for brawlers, so you're going to see 4,200 HP, 473 attack, defense 10, spirit 6, magic coming in at 297. Now remember, his Armiger attack weapon call is going to be based off of his magic stat, so having 297 magic, putting him at the 57th highest magic is actually pretty good. 63 agility will have him at the 54th fastest unit in the game. Dexterity at 216 though is gonna really drag him down. Going to be putting him at 121st. This is not the worst thing in the world, though, because he does have access to a 100% hit attack, pierce attack. But again, it's something you want to keep in mind. His luck coming in at 113th really means that he's not going to be joining the evasion world of GL Zazan and Ketone. But with an HP being the 22nd highest, with critical hit rate 16, and with really good resistances across the board, we're talking 10% resistances across the board to slash, missile, magic, with only a 5% weakness to striking and no weakness to pierce attacks. He's going to be kind of a model citizen for the brawler world. And this isn't even getting into his passive abilities, which are exceptionally powerful. Particularly his main passive ability, the Throne Successor, which will increase his attack by 24% and increase all elemental resistances 12% for self. There's just no way to say, you know, you're going to be setting this no matter what. And in addition to that 10% magic resistance, you could even go with the Spellblade support system, or Spellblade's Blessing, which will give magic resistance plus 12% on top of that, and lightning resistance 12%. I mean, you could get upwards of 22% magic resistance, and that's not counting the defense and spirit that Noctis already has built into his kit. You do have access to Shikuchi. I'm going to say Shikuchi you're not going to set because Noctis does have access to 3 different movement abilities, but you may find yourself running Shadow Running either for, you know, more agility. Maybe you do try and run him in an evade build with GL Zazan. I'm not sure how lucky you'll be with that, but you could definitely try and pull it off. In terms of his counters, the counters are really where we start seeing the complexity of Noctis come out, because being the brawler unit that he is going to have access to both a physical counter and a magical counter. So he basically has physical guard and magic guard, which is a 20% chance to mitigate 45% of the damage taken, depending on which guard you want to set. So you really need to know with Noctis where you are heading, what units you're going to be pairing with him, what formations you're going to be going up against, because with Noctis, it's all about the preparation. It's all about knowing your opponent and knowing what you're going into. And this also goes with kind of the abilities that you're going to turn on and off, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And one of the more universal things about Noctis is going to be his limit break. Now, his limit break does take 43 AP, but it is a typeless based attack, and it's going to decrease slash, pierce, and strike resistance 25% for 3 turns to the target. So it is a single target attack, but this is kind of I would say this is almost the starting point. If you can potentially have him pop his limit break every time, this is going to set him up to go down any route that would optimize damage against the opponent. This may not kill your opponent, but this is either going to support your allies. This will support any ally in your Earth composition that you have, right? That's going to be GL Zazan. That's going to be Oberon. And if you think about the synergy with Oberon as well, Oberon's limit break lowers elemental resistance of the target, right? This is going to be a unique synergy, right? Because they are different weapon types, but their limit breaks are synergizing with each other. So this is going to be very powerful. Another powerful aspect to this is that it is going to be typeless, which is very unique in the game. There is very few abilities that are truly typeless. Most of the time, it's just going to be the ninja abilities like Katon, Suitan, right, that are going to be typeless. But this is a Earth typeless attack, which is just going to add to the power level and uniqueness of Noctis's kit. When we get into his primary abilities, his primary main attack ability, Blade Throw, is 121% modifier attack with decreased attack 38% and decreased magic 38%. This is really powerful if you are trying to go for that brawler build, but I think you may be turning this off a majority of the time. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think with the capability and access to 3 different movement abilities, I think you're going to find that he will be very similar to how Tifa always uses Overpower, essentially, to initiate an attack. If you're not going to turn Overpower off, you're going to kind of always end up with them using Overpower first. unless you've decided to set like Shikuchi on them and they're closing the gap. So I think most of the time you're either going to turn this off or just leave it on and he's not going to use it, or it's going to be a follow-up attack. His secondary ability, Power of the True King, we already talked about. Reli's Fall is a 100% hit piercing attack. 165% modifier, decreases the opponent's CT. Cross-shaped attack, really nice range. I believe this will probably be his go-to attack, just because it has nice range, nice damage, it's 28 AP. It's going to be a really nice way for him to open up the battle. Again, though, this may be something you want to turn off if you want him to potentially trigger his limit break, or you want him to use one of his other abilities, because he might favor, because of the range height, his movement abilities, because his other abilities do have range height on their attack, and that could be a problem for you. Map Shift is going to be a defensive movement ability that moves him closer to your allies and gives Spirit plus 20 around himself to his allies, and it's going to grant Protect 25% for 3 turns to self. Very good defensive run back utility. Again, I wonder how the AI is going to prioritize this. Most of the time, I would say our AI does not know how to use this. This would not be Noctis is out in the field fighting and then he uses this to warp back and buff your allies. That could be the situation. There have been abilities that are AI programmed that way. I think what's most likely going to happen is if you have the Power of the True King, he will use Power of the True King into Map Shift if you have it on, and that may jack up your opening buffs. So you may actually be turning Map Shift off because it may only be used as like a catch-up mechanism with your team after buffing. Shift Break is going to be the first ability that gets, or the second ability that gets upgraded. So it's going to become Shift Break Break. But it's going to decrease defense 30 for 3 turns to target, which will be really nice to have a earth unit that is not Murmur that can decrease defense. It's going to reduce counter chance 100 for 3 turns to target, and it's going to deal 165% modifier. Now, this has really good range, but the problem that we have here is that it only has range height 1 when it moves the unit to the target panel. And so there are going to be times where Noctis may actually use Shift Assault, which is the same AP cost as Shift Break, but it's a range height 2 ability, same modifier, 165%. Where it's going to increase agility 25% for 3 turns to self and break the physical barrier. So it's one of those situations where, you know, maybe you want him to use Shift Break, but he's going to use Shift Assault. And I think a lot of the times you do want him to use Shift Break. Like, that will be his most powerful attack because it does lower defense. But I could see, again, you want to know the map, you want to know the priorities, you want to know the system, right? I could see the AI making the wrong decision for you when maybe you wanted to like lower the opponent's defense. So Noctis, again, going to kind of prove himself as a unit that is really only for advanced players, especially if you want to take him into guild battle. Even though he's so universal, he's going to be very complex to kind of manipulate his AI. You're most likely going to be setting his sub-job as Prince of Lucii. You're going to be using the ability Tri-Blade, which will be a 3-hit, 121% modifier attack. You're also going to have access to Shift Bash, which is another movement ability, which is going to be fist-based. So it's going to be 165% modifier, reduces the physical damage taken 1500 HP for self, decreases agility 20% for 3 turns to target. So you basically have 3 choices on your shift attacks. You have the choice of decreasing your opponent's agility, giving yourself a physical shield. You have the choice of decreasing defense, right? Or you have the choice of kind of breaking their barrier and increasing your own agility. So, I mean, you're going to have to figure out what you want to do, because I bet you the AI will only prioritize one of these, and that may be a problem for you. Again, if you want to run Noctis more defensive, you may want him to use the Shift Bash to get that, 1500 HP physical damage shield, but then he's going to use the defense down ability because he's going to want to prioritize damage, and that's how his AI is programmed. So again, lots of things to consider when you are thinking about this. Sub Spellblade is going to give you magic resistance up and stone sword and magic barrier. I don't know that you're going to be setting this. You might if you're specifically targeting magic-based teams. You know, it's one of those things where you are already wanting him to use his Armiger ability, and then you're kind of asking yourself, what's his next ability? Do you want to do an AP generation ability so that he does have AP for attacks? Or do you want him to do something else? There's kind of a question there of when's he going to actually use this magic resist ability or this magic barrier ability, especially with a unit kind of similar to Tifa, right? Where he's going to be able to move quickly and get into battle, especially if you're setting Shikuchi on him, which I think most people won't, but still it's something to keep in mind. Finally, you have Sub Ninja, which is going to basically give you nothing except Doton and potentially Shadowbind for stop. I don't think you're going to be subbing Ninja. You're most likely going to just be prioritizing Noctis's primary kit for his sub job. In terms of vision cards, no doubt you will want to set Oath of Salvation. And there's a couple reasons for this. And I would say Oath of Salvation is the only vision card that you can put on Noctis currently. The reason I'm saying that is it's a attack and magic vision card, right? So it does come with that attack 132, magic 116. It also comes with the individual effect of earth attack up and HP up, attack plus, dexterity plus. And you have to consider you want his Armiger ability to be able to kill enemy units from re-raise. And the only way to do that is by increasing your magic, right? This earth attack up that you're getting from the individual effect is not going to help your Armiger ability. You need to think about your magic stat when you are thinking about Noctis, because the only thing that's going to affect that Armiger ability is going to be your plus magic damage. That is it. Potentially killers as well. You could potentially see like Man-Eater bonus being applied to that. But again, it's one of those situations where you need to be aware of your magic stat. And that is why I would 100% recommend only Oath of Salvation on Noctis. If you do have to put another vision card on Noctis for whatever reason, I would say probably plan on turning his Armiger ability maybe off. And using him in a different utility. It's hard to say that though, because it does give him such good stat boosts, but honestly, man, it's tough. You might just have to give up on the Armiger damage in that situation if you are having to use a different vision card. Alophocles, I would expect to see you pair Alophocles with him. Of course, in kind of the party, would give single hit resistance, agility up, pierce attack up to the party is going to help Noctis's 100% hit attack ability. And then, of course, Solitary Lion is probably going to be the other vision card you'll set if you are running a brawler composition with GL Zazan. Get that luck up and magic resist on GL Zazan and get that earth attack up and accuracy up for the party. You know, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of Pumpkin Spice Frederica's paired with Noctis. I think Pumpkin Spice Frederica and her vision card don't really pair with Noctis that well. Yes, she's an earth slasher, but you know, you're probably going to want to be running Noctis with Oberon because their limit breaks really complement each other. Paired with GL Zazan is kind of the, you know, trio that I'm thinking of. And I don't think Pumpkin Spice Frederica is going to fit into that world. In terms of Espers, there is a variety of Espers you may want to consider. I think for PvP, for GVG, the best Esper universally would be Odin, just for access to Man-Eater, which could apply to the Armiger, right? I think that's important to consider, since that is one of the only things that would basically buff the Armiger besides plus magic, since it is true neutral, it is true typeless, so it is very limited by what can buff it. I think the other option would be Titan for earth attack up and more spirit up. And I think if you do want to go true brawler actually on Noctis, in terms of physical brawler, you could actually set Golem. I think you can make a case for Golem 3-star to actually go on Noctis. And I think Golem is one of those Espers that, you know, we don't think about very much anymore, but he is actually still there, and he still has defense up, and he's still very viable. He also has Man-Eater up, right, which would pair really well with that Armiger ability as well. So a lot of things to consider with Noctis, you guys. I hope you're excited for him. I'm pretty excited for him. I'm excited that he's a complex Earth unit, and I kind of can't wait to see kind of what he brings to the table. We are at the end of our video, everybody. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Thank you so much always for your continued support, for becoming YouTube members, for using my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. I will be pulling for Noctis tomorrow night, so that'll be Tuesday evening. I hope to see you guys there. We'll be doing some entertainment before stream, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks so much, everybody, and leave a comment and have a great rest of your day.